Hi there, welcome back. Fair warning, we're gonna get pretty deep, we're gonna get pretty heavy here, and we're gonna start going into my experience. You're going to hear about things that are kind of sad to think about, so buckle up. If you struggle with chronic suicidal thoughts, or depression, or mental illness, or cutting, or any of that, feel free to click off the video, or pause it, or skip ahead, or whatever at any time. Do not feel like you have to watch this through to the end. I'm going to be going into my experience. It might strike a chord with you, okay? Okay? Alright. So this video is about triggers, aka what to look for to recognize if someone is suicidal or needs your help. Now, when you've gone to, oh my gosh, sorry, random itch, as I said, not polished here. When you go to your typical seminar, you probably hear things like disinterest in activities that they normally love, saying that the world might be better off without me, giving stuff away, and just kind of more obvious things and kind of a memorized list. And those do apply to a certain type of person. Let me repeat after me. General triggers, what I call general triggers, do apply to a specific type of person. I cannot stress that enough. The specific type of person is your legitimately typical case. It's usually a teenager who's just having a rough time or went through a rough patch. There's pretty normal, and then just one day something happens in the cat because they hear about it a lot. Those do apply to that type of person. Those are also typically the type of people who do benefit from a brief hospital stay or a talk to the suicide hotline. Things like that. They do typically benefit. However, especially in this day and age, there was a whole extra, 10 categories of suicidal people and thought patterns and ways they show it. So we're going to get into that. There's a few examples. So a few examples of different types of suicidal people is first-timers. You're a relatively normal kid and something bad happens. The type of person who applies to the general triggers. Someone who's mentally ill, who struggles with depressive thoughts frequently, who has chronic suicidal thoughts perhaps. People who seek help, people who don't seek help, people who try to hide it, people who don't care, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I know, it's a lot, and it's kind of annoying. Welcome to the new age. I guess it's kind of sad, but we can fix it. I promise, more or less. One thing to look for is scars, aka people cutting. They can be here, they can be here, they can be on the leg, on the stomach, on the shoulder, on the neck. Some people will scratch themselves rather than cut themselves. Some people will hit themselves rather than cut themselves. Etc. So that is a sign that obviously there's something deeper going on. So always be on the lookout for that. It'll usually, if it doesn't look like little cuts on the hands, yeah, they probably didn't do that, but specific, where you can, number one, where it's obvious, and number two, where you can kind of, you're not sure, you see two scars on the wrist, but they could have gotten them naturally, but you're not sure. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Even if they say, oh yeah, no, I'm okay, and they actually are okay, it's better to be safe than sorry. That is actually how I found out that one of my friends was suicidal, is because just briefly I saw the top of his arm flash and I saw two little scars. And they were actually, I forget which side of the arm they were on, but I saw them. And that clued me in, and that is the reason he is still alive today, is that because that clued me in that something was going on there, because I'm always on the lookout for that. Especially because it's kind of pop culture-y and just about every kid does it. Well, not just about every kid, but every kid who has issues does it. And there are different reasons. Sometimes it's to punish themselves, sometimes it's not. For me, I just liked seeing the scars. It made me feel better. Some people like seeing the blood, some people like the pain, and it helps distract them from the other pain. And there's a few different reasons. All of them need to be looked at. The different reasons do need to be treated differently. FYI, I'll go into that in another video. But yeah, so scars is one thing you can look out for, and they can legitimately be anywhere. depending on whether the person's trying to hide it, whether they don't care, whether they are seeking help. And do not berate them for seeking help. It is sometimes referred to as attention seeking. If they're seeking attention, they probably need it, okay? So you get rid of that stigma. Erase it from your brain. Never think of it again, okay? Thank you. All right. And then, honestly, there is no memorized list of triggers that will apply universally to everyone because, honestly, everyone's different. Everyone thinks differently. Everyone does certain things habitually. So one fail-proof, full-safe, just 100% accurate way to identify triggers is to get to know the person. I mean, really get to know them. Get to know your child. Get to know your friend. Get to know, basically you have to figure out if there's anything out of the ordinary. So you need to know what their vocal tones normally sound like, whether they normally sound happy, complacent, kind of angry, you know how their voice normally sounds like. You talk to them, the way they talk when they're talking about homework and talking with their friends. So their vocal tones, their speech patterns, whether they normally give one-word answers, whether they're normally more talkative. Even something as simple as taking the O off of the word okay, that can be a sign. You need to know their behavior patterns, what they normally, and basically get to intimately know the person if you have concerns. And frankly, if you don't have concerns, because for all you know, you should be having concerns. And yes, that is a lot of work. Yes, it's going to take some effort. With practice, it becomes easier. Like for me, I've been doing this for a very long time. I can look at someone and know that something's up. 3 texts, I can know that something is up. And it just takes the willingness to get to know them and to be willing to be that support and to be willing to be uncomfortable and kind of have to go out of your way about it. These people need help. We need help. We need someone to be willing to go out of their way. That will save lives. Okay? Okay. Some examples of things that could be a potential trigger, or a sign is one word replies in text when they're normally relatively talkative, where they go from like, oh yeah, we're gonna meet you at the mall and do this, to yeah, okay, sure, yeah. And that may seem like it's obvious, but you actually might not notice if you're not paying close attention. I used to not notice until I started paying attention to speech patterns. So fair warning, that's not as obvious and easy as it sounds. The word meh. How was your day? Meh. How you feeling? Meh. How was school? Meh. It was okay. Meh. You should eat your vegetables. It's good for you. Meh. That's usually a sign of depression, which of course is a sign of everything else. Another trigger could be avoidance, or another warning sign could be an avoidance of talking about things happening in life. How was school? It was okay. Anything fun happen? Not really. How are your friends? They're okay. Just kind of walking around the bush and avoiding saying what's actually happening and not wanting to go into specifics, not wanting to talk about how they are feeling and how they felt. Like I said, it'll sound like normal conversation. It sounds like small talk, but the thing is, small talk is a really easy way to avoid opening up, and that's why it exists. So, if they're not willing to get a little deeper into the conversation, they're probably trying to hide something. Sorry to all the teens I just outed. It's for your own good. I promise I have your best interests at heart. Another example is maybe your kid makes his bed every morning. Maybe one day he didn't. Maybe 2 days he didn't. But he always makes it, like he finds joy in it. Maybe your kid forgot to feed the dog. Maybe your friend was late and they're never late. There's little things that are out of the ordinary that you might not notice unless you're really thinking about it. Like for me, actually, making my bed is a sign. If I'm not making my bed, or if I'm not making the bed, that's usually a sign that I'm slipping into a depressive state and that Brayden needs to keep a close eye, or my husband needs to keep a close eye on me. So even something as little as that. Maybe they always do their chores right away as soon as they get home. Maybe they take an hour. And just maybe one day they take an hour. Maybe they normally have an after school snack, but they didn't today. Little things like that. You just have to be on the lookout. You have to know how they normally act. You have to be ready. You have to know how they normally talk, what they normally say, who they normally talk to. Things like that. And yes, it takes effort. Yes, it would be great if it was obvious. But remember Robin Williams. Remember, he seemed so happy. Be willing to go deeper. Be willing to get to know them. Be willing to really love them. And that is all for today. I'll see you guys in the next video.